A few weeks ago, I spent a fair amount of time filling out boxes. Putting names in boxes, putting times in boxes, and overall it took quite some hours. This is the Anagarika offering service schedule for the fall. Can you see it? So it made me think about boxes kind of a lot. People like boxes. They're useful, they hold Kleenexes. You can ship things in boxes. My teacher very kindly gave me one of her boxes that she has saved to put Kleenexes in the meditation hall so I don't leave them on the floor. It's kind of noisy, but I've learned to work with it. So they're very useful. And cats like boxes, right? You've noticed that if there's a little box comes in, the cat will go in, and the psychologists tell us it's because they're safe. They're small, they're secure. The boxes actually make the cats feel warm. I didn't know that. But, babies like boxes. I mean, how many of us as little tiny kids would hide in the toy box or hide in a closet or had some special little small place? Kids crawled under the bed for safety. I mean, it's like this sense of being enclosed. So boxes make us feel safe and secure. Agree? Yeah, most people think so. And as the Abbey has grown, as the size of our community has grown, we've become more dependent on boxes as a way of organizing ourselves and to some extent defining ourselves. So we have our work rotas in boxes. We have our cooking rota in boxes. We have our dish rotation in boxes. We have our, are you going to tech this retreat or not, in boxes. We have our leading meditations for this retreat in boxes. And we have to align the boxes. If you do multiple things, you actually have to go find all the different boxes that you are in, and someone very kindly tried to consolidate them. That list of boxes was so overwhelming for some people they couldn't even look at it. Some of us actually were able to find our names and define where we are. So they're useful. But the problem comes when we start to think these boxes are security, or when we start to hold these boxes as authority, or we start to see these boxes as the power that tells us what to do, who to be, how to be, and if someone doesn't fill in the boxes, the whole world is going to fall apart. That's where we start getting into trouble. So it's not just at the Abbey. I mean, the whole society actually runs in this way. Some of you may remember the song, Malvina Reynolds' song that Pete Seeger recorded in 1963. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky little boxes, and they all look just the same. There are red ones, yellow ones, pink ones, green ones, yellow ones, and they all made out of ticky-tacky. They all look just the same. The people in the houses all went to the university, and they all got put in boxes and came out all the same. There are doctors, lawyers, business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. So that's not to denigrate our doctors, our lawyers, our business executives, but it just shows how our whole society kind of puts us in boxes to help us define who we are. So we check off the box, we do the right thing, our boxes get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and then, halfway through our life, midlife crisis, we feel boxed in. And we feel we have to box our way out. And as you're working with your midlife crisis, you realize, I'm going to go out in a box. I may as well eat the whole box of chocolate now because life is going to be over soon. And then we've just perpetuated the cycle because now we're still boxed in trying to seek pleasure that can't be fulfilled. So that's what happens when we start to cling to boxes. So it brought me to mind this idea of think out of the box. Think out of the box is a phrase so well worn, it too is now like a box. But I thought to do some research on where this comes from. Actually, it comes from a 1914 puzzle. 1914 puzzle. That then in the 60s and 70s, people started using it as a phrase for business consulting. The story with the box is you have these 9 circles. Some of you look like you know the story here. The challenge is to connect each of these dots with 4 lines or fewer without lifting your pen and without retracing your steps with the box. So we'll leave these here for a few minutes. We'll come back to this. But way before 1914, like about 25 centuries before 1914, there was somebody else who was thinking outside of the box. I would say positing that the innate sense of a self-sufficient, substantially existent self that is the ruler of my universe, that I am completely in charge of, positing that that doesn't exist, is thinking outside of the box, about as far outside of the box as you can probably get. And this is the box that we create for ourselves, right? All of this clinging, every little corner of my box, I have made up kind of myself. My identity of who I am in terms of being my mother's daughter, my identity in who I am in being my sibling's oldest sister, my identity in where I grew up, my identity in even being a nun. All of these are like boxes that if I've got the sides really solid, I can decorate with different other parts of my own identities. And then also my memories. Who I am, how I grew up, was I a happy child, was I a loved child? All of this is like the conceptual framework of my boxes. So those boxes then define how much I can do. I can't do more than my concept of who I think I am, how far I can reach, what I think my reality is. Don't push me any further because the edge of my box is right here, right? So everybody here, I think, is thinking outside of the box. Nobody here is living in a little box made of ticky-tacky on the side of the hill. Everybody who's here, and I think everybody who's probably listening to this talk online, is working to try to understand what was the Buddha who was thinking outside of the box. What did he mean? And how can I, how do I try to understand that to live my life, my precious life, the short period I have with the special opportunity right now? How do I live in a way to really use my life in a meaningful way? We all have that. And yet, we also all have this conditioning from society of being little boxes on the hillside and having this insecurity when we grab to the boxes. So the reason this all came up for me is my concern as a member of the Abbey community is that the more we cling to our rotations in boxes, the more I find that we're not actually so aware of each other. And we're not so aware to being able to be responsive to the situation. Here's my example. There used to be a day before we knew which box we were in for our dishes. When it was time to do the dishes, everybody went to the kitchen and did the dishes. The stated rule was you stay until the job is done. Everybody did what needed to be done. You have to have a conversation with the abbess. Okay, that's okay. Somebody else, she'll talk to her for a while, and somebody else will fill in to open up the dishes, start the dishes, and you'll go in and finish it. Everybody works together, right? Now, it's so easy to say, okay, look, today I am signed up. All I have to do is wipe the tables. Okay, I wipe the tables. I go in, I cook my dinner, and then I come out, I wipe the tables. I'm done. Put that away and split. There's still maybe 4 people in there slaving away with a pile of dishes this high. I don't even see them because I can check off the box. I'm done. I'm free. I can go, if I don't have to walk a cat, I can go out and do what I want for the next little while, right? So the sense of being able to be aware of each other and then to be sensitive to what's happening in the moment is easy to lose when we're living by our boxes. when we define our roles here by our boxes, and when we get extremely anxious if someone hasn't told us which box we're in for today. So it's understandable, but it's also something that I want us to really be aware of, because this sense of community thrives not on living within the boxes. It thrives on having an understanding or a sense of our community as a whole, how we work together, being sensitive to each other and to the needs in front of us, and being able to respond, even if what happened this morning is not on the list of what was supposed to happen this morning, which happens, excuse me, every morning. No matter what, every single morning. So the thing about this guy, okay, I am not I'm not mathematically actually skilled at all, but so I couldn't do this. I had to figure it out. I mean, I had to look it up. But some of you probably know the answer. Yes, I know Losong does. I know Venerable Rinchen does, right? Huh? Yeah, some people did it in school. Here's how it goes. 4 lines. 1. Oops, out of the box. I did. That's my first one. Out of the box. Those are my 4 lines, right? Out of the box, twice. Here's an even cooler one. I think probably it wasn't on your test or whatever. I'll come back to that. I think this one is really cool, but I have to do it. You go it like. Can you see how that goes? It's got to go a little bit further outside of the box than I can go. Right? Yeah. Oops, got to go far enough out. I can't do it unless I can't go far enough out. But what it's doing is it's touching the top of this one, going through the middle of this one, going through the bottom of this one. Then it comes way out, touches the top, goes through the middle, goes through the bottom. So in our practice, as we're trying to understand how we cling to the self that does not exist in the way it appears, how we cling to the appearance of impermanence as permanent, we cling to things that we think are pleasurable, that are impossible to be able to be pleasurable. We cling to the idea of the body as pure when it's not. We cling to this independent existing self that is very secure inside the box, because I know what I have to do in this hour between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. To just be aware of what's going on in our minds. And let the boundaries bend a little when necessary. Let ourselves think outside of the box when we need to. And actually relate to each other as living beings with needs and, afflictions, and also good qualities, and a shared purpose to really ultimately think outside of the box as best we can, to get as far with that understanding as we possibly can, and to support each other to use these simply as organizational tools that may or may not guide our day. That's my message.